All right, Shannon Briggs has sat down. I think this might have been about a month ago, right before Dillian White and Tyson Fury officially signed their contracts. But Shannon Briggs sat down with FightHype.com and discussed Tyson Fury and where he stands as a top heavyweight all time. Now, I think what he said is very interesting. Let's hear what he had to say.
Man, if he does that, then he gonna probably go down in history as a modern. Well, I gotta say this: it's the competition. The only problem we have with Fury is the fact that he's not active. So if he could give us, a big 2022, a very active 22, and then do it 3 years in a row. Give us 3 years. Then we gonna say, hey, legendary, because of his size, because of his resiliency, grit coming back. You know what I'm saying? But what's hurt him is the in-betweens, as well as not fighting a lot. You know what I'm saying? So for whatever reason, he needs to be more active. If he can become more active over the next 2 years, if he can give us 2 years of activity, I'm talking about 6 fights, six contenders, not even contenders, the top boys.
Yeah.
If he clean out the whole heavyweight division at first, the top 10, if he clean out the next top 10, then guess what? We're going to have to say he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. That he could have beat anybody because of his size, because of everybody. Other than that, it's going to be hard. But so can you imagine? Put him and George Foreman together.
Someone you beat.
Well, that's a tough one because, you know what I'm saying? How about him and Lennox Lewis?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh my gosh, it's right. But let's analyze some of the stuff Shannon said. Now, he said if Tyson Fury fought for another 2 or 3 years, fighting active, giving us a good 3 fights a year, kind of like what he did the year when he made his comeback and was getting ready for Deontay Wilder, but except for fighting cupcakes to get ready, we need him to defend against not just solid competition, as Shannon said, not even contenders, the cream of the crop. I would suggest over like the next 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years, fighting maybe a King Kong Ortiz, a Andy Ruiz, Daniel Dubois, depending on how he pan out, because we know he lost to Joe Joyce. How about fighting Joe Joyce? How about fighting AJ? How about fighting Usyk? Those last 2 I named, they'll probably happen anyway. Maybe a Big Baby, not Big Baby Miller, but the other guy. If you fight these guys that I named off, not just the old heads or the guys that's been supposedly the best of the best over the last decade or whatever, but also fight a couple of the young guys coming up. Hold the next generation off as well. Then you can make the argument that he's in there with the likes of a Mike Tyson. You can argue he's in there with the likes of a Joe Louis or a Larry Holmes. But you gotta have the title defenses. Maybe throw a Charles Martin or a Joseph Parker, and they be like, man, Charles Martin, yes, because he's a former champion. Get a couple more former champions on your resume. You see what I'm saying? That's what all the greats have done. The guys that I named in this last video that I did about him being a top 10 heavyweight, one thing all of these guys had in common, they beat multiple former champions. You can't just have 2 on your resume. You can't just have 2 title defenses and 1 as of now. Till he fight Dillian White, then he'll have 2. You got to have more than that. You got to. Everybody you seen roll across that screen dominated. They didn't just win the titles. They dominated. They held them for a while. They beat the best of the best of those generations. They say, well, hold up. Tyson didn't do that. He lost to Lewis and Holyfield. Yeah, but he did it in the 80s. He couldn't do it in the 90s, but he did it in the 80s. So, in my opinion, I'm agree with what Let's Go champ Shannon Briggs said. If he could go another 2 or 3, and if he go 4 or 5 and really put on a run, maybe somewhere between a 5 and 10 title defense reign, you got to put him up there with the all-time greats. Now, where you sit him, that's up to you. But if he does do that, if he make it so he get around that, like I said, I'm going to say 6 to 10 title defenses, get a couple more former champions on his resume. If he does that, then you can argue he's the greatest of all time. Now, whether you put him at the top, whatever. But I will say this. You will also be able to argue that he could beat any of the other all-time greats on any given occasion. Honestly, I think you can argue that now. You can make the argument. But the stats just don't back it up yet. He got all the talent in the world. I'll be the first to say it. But the stats don't back it up yet. You gotta beat, not like I said, beat some of the top guys now. Maybe grab a couple former champions, put them in the mix, and whoop some of these new generation guys. You see what Lennox Lewis did? Vitaly Klitschko was the next generation coming up. Okay, well, on my way out the door, let me check the next generation and show you that I'm just as good as anybody y'all got coming up behind me. That's what Lennox Lewis did, because I guarantee you, but Vitaly Klitschko, that 2000 to 2010, he beat up everybody. And whoever he didn't beat up, his brother did. The Samuel Peters, the Chris Birds, go back and look at his resume. He fought more guys over here than his brother did. That's one of the reasons why I give him more accolades. But, you know, that's me being biased when it comes to American boxing. But my point is, if you come over here and you whoop the guys over here and whoop the guys over there, then you did the job. That's one of the reasons why I put Vitaly on the list. I mean, you see what he did to Shannon Briggs? You think Shannon Briggs a Hall of Famer? That's a 2-time champion. You seeing Vitaly bust up like that. Once again, you gotta have former champions on your resume, and you gotta have multiple title defenses. He had a bunch. You want to know his stats? Go look at the last video. I put them on there. But that's pretty much all I got. This head busting boxes on Fight Doctor. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what you think it would take for Tyson Fury to be a top 10 heavyweight. Or hit me up in the comment section. Let me know if you think he's a top 10 heavyweight now. You know, make the argument. But that's pretty much all I got. This head busting boxes on Fight Doctor. I am out.